Welcome to Project Management, and my name is Jerry Cockrell, and I will be your instructor this semester for this workshop or this course. Welcome to my friends in Russia at the St. Petersburg State University of Aerospace Instrumentation. Again, I am Jerry Cockrell, and I've been a professor at Indiana State University. And more about that very soon. Again, that's my name. I'm a retired professor at Indiana State University. Terre Haute, Indiana is located in the middle of the United States. I would suggest or encourage you to look at a map to find out where my home is. Alex can talk about Terre Haute. He's been here quite often, visiting in official and unofficial capacity. So welcome to the course. I look forward to presenting some information to you all about the field of project management. The textbook we will use is one that I have written, and actually written 2 editions. You hopefully have one of the 2, Practical Project Management, Learning to Manage the Professional, and it's published by the International Society of Automation Press. And I encourage you to read it and write down any questions that you may have so we can cover them during the live session. A little bit of information about me. As I said, I'm a retired professor emeritus at Indiana State University. I still live near the university, so I still do some work for them. Prior to coming to Indiana State, I was an engineer at a company called Rockwell International, working on various projects, cockpit automation, aerospace projects, navigation, electrical navigation systems. And then also I was president of ISA in 2009. So my background is really focused on the field of automation, be it cockpit automation, process automation, and similar areas. And so the topic we're going to talk about is project management, which happens to be something that I used quite often in my industrial career and also in my academic career. The techniques are appropriate for almost any area that you pursue, be it economics, engineering, what have you. The techniques of project management are usable, I believe. So I've been a project manager. I was in the Air Force. I was born in Kentucky, state of Kentucky. I was raised in Illinois, and now I'm a Hoosier. And a Hoosier is somebody that comes from Indiana or lives in Indiana, and so I consider myself a Hoosier now, which means I'm a resident of the state of Indiana. My background was kind of like our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. He was born in Kentucky. He was raised in Indiana, and then he practiced law in Illinois. So kind of similar in the way we grew up. My wife of over 40 some years is Jan. I have one son. His name's Andrew, and my main hobbies include amateur radio, ham radio as we call it, and very interested in that field. And I have other hobbies also. So, getting into the topic of projects, the topic of this course. Projects are defined as temporary activities accomplished to create a product or service. The key there in that sentence is temporary. Now that is kind of a relative term. To you and I, temporary probably means a very limited time. But in a project, a temporary project might mean a week, it might mean a month, it might mean a year, or it might mean 10 years. I have known projects that have taken up to 10 years to complete, and we still call that temporary, short-term project. If you're building a new computer, you're probably going to take maybe less than a week or 2 weeks to complete that project. So that's temporary. If you're building a huge high-rise building like they have in Chicago, temporary might mean 5-10 years to complete that project. So when we talk about projects being temporary, that's really what we're referring to. Key point, temporary projects, and all of our projects have a defined beginning and they have a defined end. That's very important to remember. A project has a beginning and it has a definite end. We have to end it. Many of us have the characteristic that we never want to end something because we can always discover better ways of doing it. Can't do that with a project. We have to decide on this is when it ends, and we have to end it at that point. There is a definite phase of project management that has a closeout stage. And so it's very important that we follow that we actually end it. We begin on a certain date and we end on a certain date. Projects involve sequences of tasks. We have to be able to develop a plan from a sequence of tasks. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You've got to be able to categorize tasks as a sequence. This is the first thing you do, the second, and so on. An example, if you're building a small building, there's a sequence of tasks that you follow in building a small building. You start with the foundation, then you put up the walls, then you put on the roof, then you put on the shingles on the roof. That's a sequence of tasks that we can plan for, and we can do a lot of analysis of those tasks in order to best build that building. So project management involves a sequence of those tasks. And then finally, projects differ from normal work. Those things that we do day in and day out. Normal work is accomplished each and every day, and it's completed by workers with little thought of planning or organization. To change paper in a copy machine. That's normal work. That has no reason for using project management in its completion. Changing the wiper blades on your car. That is normal work. Something that we do day in and day out, not appropriate for project management. So what is project management? It's the managing and directing of company resources to meet the defined objectives of a unique and, most importantly, temporary project. That's what we're going to discuss this semester in this course. All the techniques, all of the examples of these unique and temporary projects. Project management involves managing and directing of people, time, resources, and costs. We'll talk in detail about each of these. How do you best manage your people? Hopefully you'll have questions because the techniques that we use in the United States might be different than the techniques you use there. So we need to discuss those things. Managing people, time. Of course, time is the same all over, so it's important that we are able to manage time. Resources, the stuff that you have available to you. Maybe it's limited. A manager has to be able to manage those resources. And costs. We need to do this project so that somebody can afford this product. somebody can afford this service. Somebody can afford this research. So we have to very importantly keep track of the costs for the project. We'll be talking about those 5 phases of project management, and we'll have a lesson on each of these and those things that you do in these 5 phases. These come from something called PMBOK. You see that at the bottom, PMBOK. It stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. There's a publication from the Project Management Institute. They publish the PMBOK. It's got everything you want to know about project management, from the 5 phases: initiation, those startup activities, planning. We'll be talking about PERT charts, CPM, critical path method, Gantt charts, budgeting, then executing. This is where you start doing the project. Controlling. This is where the manager gets involved heavily to manage the people in order to do the project. And there's that closing stage that I mentioned is very critical. There's definite things that need to be done during the closing stage. Something that we need to define and we'll be referring to is the project life cycle. Those 5 phases of project management, they're known as the project life cycle. A project has its own life cycle from the beginning through the project to the closeout stage. That's the project life cycle. And each phase provides some deliverable upon completion. Something like an example, a prototype, a report, a test, a briefing. Some deliverable must be presented to management, upper management, in each of the phases of a project. So some examples from my experience: our space program, your space program. I'm sure project techniques are used. Building of new aircraft, building of new buildings, a new tablet computer. That's an example of a project. If you're into economics, you're going to have a lot of research, economics research. So a research program would use project management. Building of a new automobile, building of a new facility. Many examples of where projects and project management techniques can be used. So that ends our first discussion. That's kind of an introduction to the course, an introduction to project management. Would like you, if you so desire, write down your questions. And when we have our next live session, we'll have you ask those questions and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So thank you.